Welcome to the Hidden Orchard podcast, a radical exploration of spirituality, science, and the Bible from a Jewish perspective. Each week we'll look at a new topic and dive deep into the texts that inspire and enrich our lives. So whether you're a seasoned expert or just curious about a topic, there's something for everyone. So sit back, relax, and we'll get to today's episode in a bit. But first, if you haven't done so, visit thehiddenorchard.com and subscribe. It's free, and you'll receive access to content and weekly emails. There you can also subscribe for a paid membership and get access to everything on the site and be the first to hear about online study opportunities where you can meet and interact with other people on the journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you have an idea for a topic, reach out to me at thehiddenorchard.com. Now, let's get to today's episode. Almost 70% of Americans say they believe in angels. Somewhere deep in humanity's collective memory seems to lie an intuition that the heavens are alive. Ask someone where the angels live, and whether child or adult, almost everyone instinctively points upwards. We'll look at that intuition in this episode and the surprising places that the Jewish tradition around angels and where they live continues to come up all throughout the Bible. So where do angels live? Well, first, let's look at what the text has to say. In the Peshat, the plain meaning of the Bible, there's a sort of descent that occurs when angels visit humanity. For example, we've covered this in separate articles before. The Nephilim, very popular idea. The Nephilim stem from the word Nephal. Now, the word Nephal in Hebrew means to fall or to descend. So Nephilim is a plural, meaning the fallen ones. And though modern vocabulary may understand angels in terms of interdimensional beings of that sort, for millennia, many civilizations assumed this hierarchy in a literal sense. Nevertheless, something changed throughout time. Through a sequence of movements, whether it's Newtonian physics, the Enlightenment era, and the emergence of modern cosmology, a shift occurred in the collective psyche. Author Rupert Sheldrake comments on this, and he says, "The heavens have been handed over to science, the celestial realm to astronomy, and astronomy has nothing to do with God, spirits, or angels. In essence, the sky is transformed from a vibrant spiritual realm into an empty space governed by physics. Ancient beliefs were arrogantly cast aside, regarding only that which can be measured. The new collective assumption is that the universe is lifeless, and anyone who suggests otherwise can expect ridicule. Where the ancients recognized the celestial influence on the terrestrial, astronomy focused on the stars and their material makeup, but severed the spiritual connection. However, the biblical and rabbinic traditions have never surrendered the heavens. They've always affirmed that the heavens are as alive as ever. Now, tradition teaches that angels fill creation in countless ranks and classes. Every force of nature, every nation, every phenomenon has an angel charged with governing it. And the angels have bodies, and according to tradition, those bodies are the stars. The Bible tells us that it was God who created these celestial bodies in the sky, and knows each one by name. And known in Hebrew as the Kochavim, these celestial bodies serve many purposes, from marking seasons and months to serving as witnesses to humanity's affairs. This implies that the universe has a degree of consciousness. According to the Torah, angels have always been here and have been directly involved with the management of our world. The angels comprise a delivery system for the blessings or the discipline, depending on our behavior. This is actually what Jacob saw in his vision in Genesis 28, when he saw the angels going up and down the ladder. This ascending and descending includes the reporting on human activity, and in particular the angelic governance of the nations. If you recall, after the Tower of Babel incident, God appointed an angel over the dispersed nations, and he kept Israel for himself. Each of these 70 nations has an angelic administrator, and these angels are known as the Divine Council. And this is a topic we've covered as well, so check the show notes for more on that. But there's more than just this Divine Council. The Zohar states, over all the stars and constellations there have been set chiefs, leaders, and ministers, whose duty is to serve the world. And the Zohar goes on to say each star has over it a being appointed who ministers before the Holy One as its representative. This structure, however, also created a foothold for idolatry. Many of these nations, through time, associated their patron gods with the constellations, the stars, and the planets that are visible from their land. Their worship was often directed towards the angelic administrators whom they mistook for God. This is why a common nickname for Gentile pagans in rabbinic literature is an akum. It's an acronym for worshippers of stars and constellations. Though they made a tragic error, I personally don't think they were completely ignorant. I believe they sensed something spiritual moving in the heavens, for which they appealed. Now, the connection between angels and stars was common in the first century, appearing in the writings of the New Testament and apocalyptic material. In Revelation, this connection is explicit. Revelation 1:20 says, "The 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches." The author seems to connect Jesus' message to the communities through their angelic representatives, connecting them with the stars. Paul warned his Gentile audience in Colossians to avoid reverting back to the former traditions and governance of paganism under the celestial bodies. And he does this in Colossians 2:8, where he says, "Be careful not to allow anyone to captivate you through an empty, deceitful philosophy that is according to human traditions and the celestial bodies of the world." Many times in the New Testament, we get the idea of falling stars, and this is an apocalyptic Jewish idea. Revelation 12:4 speaks of stars falling from heaven. With the above tradition, the meaning becomes clear. In the end times, these angelic rulers will be terminated from their positions of power, and the nations under their protection are left vulnerable to suffer the consequences. Jesus himself uses this imagery in Mark 13:25. He says, "The stars will be falling from heaven, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken." For a modern reader, this sounds like ancient superstition. But for a first century Jew, this would have signaled the collapse of angelic thrones and the reordering of cosmic authority on earth. And all of this is preparation for the Messianic kingdom. And it is from this tradition that Paul cites this often quoted passage from Ephesians. Ephesians 6:12 says, "Our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers and powers, the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." So we can see this idea numerous times throughout the New Testament and the apostolic writings. Now, we have the question of rebellion. How do angels rebel? Kabbalistic tradition shares that the evil actions of humanity can influence the angels, unlocking a degree of free will for them. When national sins increase, the corresponding angelic administrator becomes exposed to this evil, and the nation is primed for collective judgment. This might explain the motives of the Watchers who corrupted humanity, leading up to the Great Flood. This might explain the motives of the Watchers who corrupted humanity, leading up to the Great Flood. Now, angelic misalignments cause disharmony between other angels, and eventually it leads to broader conflict in the spiritual worlds. The influence of this is seen in our physical world in the form of famine, war, strife, disease, economic hardships, and other catastrophes. So when we see a nation struggling with these problems, we can associate these as outcomes from the spiritual decline that preceded. And it's in these times that we need to be more diligent and steadfast in our spiritual growth. All of this to say, there is much more we will explore in the future. Make sure you subscribe and you go to the website, thehiddenorchard.com. We have more articles on angels and the divine council. But here's the takeaway. Though we, in modern times, inherited a sky emptied by science, the world seems to be coming back to this ancient position. And that is that our universe is not lifeless. The cosmos is filled with purpose, hierarchy, and consciousness. And we're not alone, and never were. That's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed this topic. Remember, you can find more information at thehiddenorchard.com. If you liked what you heard, please leave a review and share this podcast with your friends. We don't really engage in marketing, so it's word of mouth and references like that really help spread the word. Also, I want to say thank you to those who subscribe to the site and those who support the Hidden Orchard Project financially. Without you, it wouldn't be possible, so thank you. Thanks to everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.